Hello, welcome. Thank you all for joining. Good to be back. Good to see everybody here. Looks like we got a lot of people in the chat today from all over the place, which is always nice to see. I see Bailey is here joining from Australia, which at 5 a.m., which I feel like that time, the time zones changed that because I thought it used to be even worse for you. So 5 a.m. is like reasonable, but thanks for joining. And I saw Graham here is on time for the first time in ages. I love it. Good to see everybody here. I am back in the studio today, back in Portland. I am sorry for missing last week. That was not the plan. I was hoping I was going to be just able to roll right off the plane and come back into here and kick things off. But no, it turns out I picked up a cold on the way back, which was really unfortunate, and had to just lay on the couch all day Sunday. Oh well. So I'm feeling fine now. I did get a COVID test. It was not COVID. So thankfully it was just a minor cold that I picked up on the trip back. And yeah, I'm pretty much back to normal now, which is great. So back in the studio, back to the stream today. And yeah, we're gonna have a good time. So if you're new here, thanks for joining, and always happy to answer questions in the chat. If you do have a question for me, make sure you put the letter Q or the word question in front. And does this button still work? Yes, it does. There we go. And you can see I'm like 2 weeks out of practice now with this. Anyway, drop your message in the chat with the letter Q in front, and the that'll filter it in my little interface here so I can see it better. And otherwise, we're going to chat about what I've been up to for the last week or two and see what we can learn and maybe see what we can break. Who knows? I've got a couple of things to try here as well that I am excited to share. I have a new camera. So we'll see how that goes. Oh, Peter, thank you for the super chat. Regarding the money we did not spend on alt beer I am saving, thanks for all the great information you share with us. Thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah, I had a good time in Germany. Did drink lots of alt beer, and that was a delight. So that was, yeah, thanks for the super chats during that stream. Oh, let's start with this one. Bailey wants to know what happened with the map at the start of the show. Sometimes it just doesn't get going in the morning. So the way that it works, it's all a web page, and sometimes if it's been, because it just stays open, it's loaded in OBS and it stays open all the time on here, and I really need to get into the habit of reloading that web page right before I start the show. The way that the map works is there's basically like the web page is listening for messages all the time, and I think that connection just like drops off sometimes if it's been open for hours. So yeah, all I did was I reloaded the web page, which is why it went back to that title graphic, and then I pressed the show map button and restarted the timer from approximately where it left, where I hit the reload button. So it was quick to recover, but yeah, that was, yeah, it just gets tired. It needs a break now and then. It does. That's the downside of doing all the graphics with software, because like weird things can just happen. Oh, Graham has a question. Have you ever had an ATEM come back after restart with the wrong URL for Facebook streaming? This happened to me a couple times. Everything else was okay. I don't use Facebook, so I haven't had that particular problem with Facebook, but I suspect that I do know what's going on. So if you are, let me make sure I don't have a stream key in there. So if you are, where's the right button? There we go. Seriously, like I've been doing this for, you'd think I've been doing this for so long that I remember where all my buttons are, but apparently being out of town and then missing a week, I'm just like totally thrown for a loop. So anyway, in the software control, if you go and like change stuff in here, it's not going to save it automatically. And if you are like not, if you're like me and you kind of have your ATEM set up to where you don't really change it much and it just kind of is that way, you've probably at some point gone and done the save startup state thing so that it saves all of its settings. And if you make any further changes, those don't get saved. So I have a feeling that you had some stream key in here, didn't press save startup state because everything else is normal, and you rebooted it, and then it came back with whatever was the last one that was saved. That's my guess. So I like to just get in the habit. Speaking of, I should probably just right now do this in case I, for some reason, need to restart the ATEM, because I have changed a couple of settings since the last time I've pressed that button. So it's just file, save, startup state. It's not very satisfactory button press because it looks like it doesn't do anything, but it is actually doing something. I wish they would have like a little progress bar or a little light that would flash or something that would just acknowledge that it did the thing. Peter asks, how do you get the keyed chat messages back from OBS into the ATEM Extreme? That is from, so for OBS runs all of my graphics, and I think I've done like a full tour of this at some point on a live stream. Let me see if I can find the, yeah, okay, it was July. So what I'm doing is, just for your benefit, if you go to aaronpk.tv/timestamps, then the you can search through chapters. And I just searched for OBS because I was like, I probably talked about it when I talked to OBS. And sure enough, here is the chapter of that live stream talking about getting the browser source from OBS into the ATEM. The trick is it uses the Ultra Studio 4K Mini, which is the little Thunderbolt device that has two SDI outs for key and fill, and then that runs into the system here. I'm not actually running it into the ATEM Mini because of how I've got things set up, but it would work the same way running into the ATEM Mini. It's running into the ATEM Television Studio over SDI directly, but same concept. And, oh, I should probably just drop that link. I'll drop this link to the timestamp search into the chat. Graham says it wasn't the stream key, but the actual built-in URL for the service. Oh, that's interesting. Same idea, though. I think that if you've ever done like the load streaming settings, again, like nothing you do in the software is saved until you actually press save startup state. Bailey says, I don't like the ATEM software control for the higher end machines. It's good for the ATEM minis. It's complex. It would like an easier interface. I agree. And one of those easier interfaces, although it's getting more and more complicated every day, is Mix Effect. So I think I have it here. The Mix Effect is this app that runs on this iPad, and it does essentially, it can control every single part of the ATEM as well. And because of that, it's not necessarily simple. It's not necessarily for beginners, but it can do everything that the software control can do, but it's on the iPad, which is, and it's better interface in my opinion. I think it's better laid out than the software control app. It also does things that the software control can't do, like way better super source layout editing. So that is a really cool solution, but I agree. Both of those are not necessarily for beginners. So, you know, this is again why I would not necessarily recommend setting up an ATEM Mini if you're going to be handing it off to somebody to run a show, because it does take practice and training to actually get used to be able to control it. You can create buttons with Companion and like have a nice little Stream Deck layout for them, but even then, like you still have to write instructions for whatever buttons you've created, and if anything goes wrong, it's hard to troubleshoot. So that is one of the advantages of the Yolobox, where like I would not mind handing the Yolobox to somebody and saying, go run your stream. Tim, I'm not sure what you mean. How are you driving the double box? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Let me know what you mean by double box. Darren asks, are you using OBS on your M1 Mac Mini? If so, do you have 8 or 16 RAM? I am. It is on the Mac Mini, and this is the 8 gig base model MacBook or Mac Mini. I got the base model of both the Mac Mini and the M1 MacBook Air because I didn't want to spend very much money, and honestly, I've been super, super impressed. They're not, you know, obviously it would be better with 16, and if I knew what the latest release of MacBook Pros were this fall, when I bought the Air, I would have upgraded the Air and got that instead of the Pros. But I'm just running 8 gigs of RAM and everything is fine. I even use Resolve and edit all my videos on the 8 gig RAM machine, and it's fine. Graham says, I think Tim meant the super source layout. Oh, that makes sense. That double box. You mean this double box? Yeah, this is super source layout. So if you go into the ATEM software control, the super source tab over here is where you can configure that. This is not a good interface. I'm not going to give Blackmagic any credit for this interface. It is super clunky to use, but the Mix Effect interface is a lot easier. But you can make this layout in here. So box 1 is my camera, and you can see if I move it around, I'll slide around on the picture. And then I've got crop here as well. So if I turn off the crop, for example, it shows the full wide thing. And then box 2 is enabled, and that's my computer, and it is not cropped, and it is shrunk down to 0.75. So you can see that's the other box. And of course, it's scooted over to the right spot. And then I could have 2 other boxes, 3 and 4. I just don't have them turned on because I don't have anything to do with them in this layout. And then the background is here. So it's my Media Player 2 right now. I could change it to a video if I wanted to, which is kind of interesting. I could be like, oh, we're going to put the background of my desk. And now you can see my hand down here as I'm typing. Actually, that's kind of cool. Maybe I should keep that. It's probably actually just distracting. Maybe if I had like, yeah, and no, it's too distracting. Anyway, you get the idea. It's just layers of stuff. And it's super cool. It's like, honestly, this is the main reason I would get the ATEM Extreme over the Pro, because the ability to do this kind of layout is super, super useful for a whole bunch of stuff. And it does not exist in the Pro. It is only in the Extreme and up. It's even, we'll see what happens with the rack mount lineup, but it's only in like the higher models of those too. So yeah, it's great. It is. I use this for obviously this stream, but also when I'm doing like a conference, like an event. It's super nice to be able to have the presenters video off to the side, like video of the stage, and then their full slides off to the side over here, and then you can put the conference branding in the background too. Yes, TV. Oh, I didn't see. I don't come from the TV industry. Got it. Okay. Another super source option worth mentioning is H2R layouts. Oh yeah, good call. That's relatively new. Let's see if I can find that. Yeah, okay. Let me see if I can quickly demo this. Layouts.heretorecord.com. This is something from John's channel. He's making all these super useful tools. It's basically a layout generator for SuperSource. So it's like slightly better than the Blackmagic, where you just have to like figure out the numbers, what the numbers mean, because you can like actually just drag these around. So you can be like, okay, box 1 is on, and I want it to be on camera 1. So that would be my face here, and I can do the left-right crop, which I pretty much only ever want to just crop like that. So it's super quick to just do a crop, scoot it over. Oops, that was size, not position. Just scoot it over, and then I can turn on box 2, and let's see, my computer's plugged into camera 2, so that's how I want it. Bring it over there, scale it up. Oops, it doesn't scale from the center. I don't know why I want it to scale from the center. John, fix it. Okay, so got that looking like that. Now it looks pretty much like this screen. And then I guess I don't need to do a background image because I'll do that in the actual software. Oh, it looks like I can upload an image for the background too. Anyway, once you've created this, then you get this macro, which basically this XML is what you need in order to tell the ATEM to restore those settings. So you create it, you copy this into a macro, and then whenever you push that button, it'll restore this layout, which is super cool. And then the super fancy stuff is the animated SuperSource transitions, where you can basically then, if you, I don't know if this is gonna, it's probably not gonna make any sense trying to read these instructions through, but essentially what it does, it gives you several macros. I want to see what's in it. Let me get a text editor open, and so we can just look at how many macros are in that. If we look how long this text file is, there's a ton of stuff going on here, and it just generated all that. So there are how many macros? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 macros. And basically what it does is it means you can make all these buttons to go, if you are like on camera 1, you can go full screen and it'll animate to full screen, and then you can go back to your SuperSource and it'll animate back. Similarly, you can switch to like, oh, we want to zoom in on camera 2 now, full screen, and then go back. So it just makes that all happen with all those macros. It's kind of magic. And then you make buttons for on your Stream Deck. Anyway, John has done a better demo of that whole side of it. But at the very simple version of this is you get to just drag these things around, which is a lot nicer than using Blackmagic's tool for figuring out what all the little positions mean and how to scoot it over one by one. So yeah, thanks for that reminder of that tool. Where was I? Okay. Roland says, I'm on the fence about mix effect. It does amazing things, but I worry about fragmenting my ATEM control between mix effect and companion, even with the new companion module. Yeah, that's fair. The big limit here, the hard limit, is the ATEM can only have 5 things connected to it at once. So that's definitely like your hard limit. And then so if I always have companion running because I want these buttons, and then I might have other stuff talking to the ATEM as well. For example, mix effect on an iPad, or I might have loaded up a different app on an iPhone for some reason, or sometimes I use those little Arduino based or ESP32 based devices that I made, so I can do camera switching from just a little handheld device. And yeah, it's definitely like something to be aware of how many things you're making talk to your ATEM. But I do think that it's totally fine to have multiple things connected. Like, you're not going to hurt it, and it does keep everything in sync. So I think it is useful to be able to have multiple different ways of controlling it instead of just one. Another one is like when I use Photoshop to export a graphic into the ATEM, that counts as a connection for the time that connection is open. So I can't have 5 things always connected if I'm going to also upload graphics. Oh, here's a question from John. Do you use the resolve files to edit? If so, how do you handle the super source in the timeline? No. So I'm actually, when I use the ATEM to record videos for YouTube, I'm actually working on a video about this right now, so I'm not going to like go through the whole thing right now, but I am in the middle of making a video about how I use the ATEM to make YouTube videos. And essentially what I do is I treat the ATEM as an 8-channel recorder. So I don't do live switching or live cutting on it. I essentially just use it to record all 8 channels at the same time. And then I do all of the switching in post. So I don't have any trouble with the super source layout. If I did want to use the super source layout to like record that in case I didn't want to have to recreate that in post, then what I would do is I would feed the super source layout out of one of the HDMIs back into one of the inputs. I talked about that on the video I did about recording Zoom meetings. It's a neat little trick, and it means you can actually record the super source layout as an actual video feed. So even better than it's already just done, and you don't have to like worry about restoring it into Resolve or anything. So that's what I would do, but I don't end up doing that very often because I don't normally use the multi-box layouts in the edited videos. I only really use those for live streams. Let's see, question from Michael. How do you switch sound from live external coming into the ATEM Mini Pro to a media playout sound? So essentially there's a whole audio mixer in the ATEM, and it looks like this, and every channel is one of your inputs, right? Plus the mic input, which is where my audio is coming in right now. It's coming in from the mic 1 through my mixer. If I had any playout graphics loaded up, which I don't today, I do have another audio source I will be using, which is actually this one. So I want to show you some cool RTMP tricks. And you can turn on auto follow video, or you can just enable the channel, and then the ATEM does the mixing. So if you wanted to, for example, switch between audio from a camera and play out, you would have 2 of the audio follows video enabled. Like, oops, I probably shouldn't do that. I'm gonna get double audio if I do that. Here, we'll just turn that all the way down. So then if camera 1 is on the stream, you can see, for example, it is red because this is camera 1. And if I then switch away from that angle, it'll turn that audio off. And if you then cut over to the one that's playing out your video, like if that's coming in on channel 6, then that audio will start playing, and it's all automatic. I like that audio follow video for that purpose. But you can also, of course, just manually turn it on and off too if you want to have more explicit control over it. Speaking of audio, can you recommend an audio embedder, preferably to HDMI? I'm finding the ATEM Extreme 3.5mm unreliable. It could be a cable issue, but like the idea of trying an alternative approach. I'm curious what you mean by unreliable, because I... Oh, here, you did a follow-up. For more complex audio work, I mix on an X32. Yeah, it makes sense. Then send the mixed audio out on XLRs. Been running to intermittent signal with a 3.5 input. Oh, intermittent signal. That sounds pretty odd. That sounds like maybe just like a loose cable. Like I've definitely had the little tiny cables just come loose internally, and they'll, if you touch them the slightest, they'll drop. But that's exactly what I'm doing right now. This microphone was routed through the X-Air, the X-Air mixer that's on my floor over here, and that goes out the XLR ports on, actually I think it's one of the aux outputs on that mixer, in XLR to 1/8 inch cable running into the mic 1, and it's fine. It seems to be holding up fine. I've been using this for the last couple of weeks now, so I guess I have a good cable. I think it's probably a cable issue. Cool. Okay. Looks like we got a lot more questions coming in. So just a reminder, if I'm not going to see your question at this point unless you put the letter Q in front of it, because there's a lot of chat happening, which is always nice to see, but it means it's too hard for me to scan through the whole list of chat messages. So put the letter Q and I'll get to you. I'll see your question that way. Speaking of Bailey, have you noticed that in the YouTube chat when someone mentions your name, that highlight is lighter orange? No, I haven't noticed that. Interesting. Chris says the biggest drawback of Mix Effect is that it's Mac only. I don't know if that's a drawback, especially because, like, honestly, the app is so good that it's worth buying an iPad just to use it. Like, you don't have to care about the Apple ecosystem. Just treat it like it's you need to run the software on some device. You're going to use that device just for that piece of software. It's great. Like, the iPads aren't even that expensive, so you don't need a fancy iPad for it. What's the cheapest iPad you can get? I think it's the Air, right? It's the oh no, it's not. That's too much. No, there's a really cheap iPad. I'm clicking on the wrong one. iPad, that's the one. Regular plain iPad. Buy it now. 64 gigs. $330. Okay, that's like reasonable. I think that's a reasonable price. There it is. $330. I think that's fine. Get that just to run Mix Effect. Like, honestly, that's worth it to me. I don't think you need to worry about, you don't need to be on an iPhone in order to like using Mix Effect on an iPad. I agree, likely cabling, need to upgrade that first. Still not confident with 3.5 millimeter connectors. Yeah, they're not the best connectors, for sure. That is fair. And I do wish, oh, Graham, thanks for the super chat. Thanks for all the useful info. I appreciate it. Yeah, the, all sorts of fun topics in here. Yeah, the cabling, the 3.5 millimeter connectors are not the greatest, and I do wish that they had used the 1/4 inch at the very least on the ATEM Extreme, because it seems like it is big enough for that. But I mean, once you have it set up, like this setup here has been working fine with a 3.5 millimeter, and I don't really have any complaints. There is the grounding issue sometimes does come up, where like if you have, depending on how your devices are powered, you can create the ground loops that are super buzzy. But either plug the power sources in differently or get the little isolator boxes and it's fine. Not the end of the world, I think. But the other option is if you're not doing like, I guess you actually could run the output of the mixer into a camera, for example, which would be a good way to embed the audio. And the Blackmagic cameras do have XLR inputs too, so that is also an option. Okay, let me see where else. What's going on? Oh my gosh, so many messages. What's going on in here? Okay, let's talk about this. Do you know what was wrong with the ZV-E10 image on the Wacom tour? That is a good question. So when I was in Germany, I visited the Wacom Düsseldorf Experience Center, which is what they call it. Very cool place. They used to host events. And let me get rid of the sound. So that live stream was 2 weeks ago. Here is the Wacom Experience Center Düsseldorf live stream. And for that, what I did was I was in this little room they had set up for me, and I was using the Yolobox, and then for walking around, I did a loop around the buildings. So you can kind of, I don't know if you can tell, but this long thing that my camera is looking down, that's like one half of the building, and then it's like a loop. So you can walk all the way around in a loop. And there's like a center block of, I think the restrooms are in the middle chunk, and closet, network closet and stuff is in that sort of middle chunk. And the place that I was at showing the tablets was essentially exactly diagonal across the building. So imagine I'm in like one corner. I should draw this or something. I don't think I have my drawing set up. Speaking of Wacom, I don't think I have my drawing set up right now to do that. But essentially, it's like a long building with like an island in the middle. And I was in one corner, and the tablets were at the other corner. So think like there's a lot of stuff in the way, right? So what I did was I had this little Sony ZV-E10 with a wireless HDMI transmitter on the top, and the receiver was plugged into the Yolobox. And then I walked around the room, around the whole building to test it first before I did the live stream, to double check that the signal wouldn't cut out, and it turns out it did work great. This is the new, do I have a link for it is the question. I do. The transmitter I used for that was the Cosmo C1. So that is brand new, actually launched 10 days ago while I was there, and that's why I couldn't say what it was when I was using it. But this was the C1, and they've done, I guess, some improvements to the wireless signal, and it did not drop out at all. So, okay, I was walking around with it. That's the picture from the camera, and then here was me walking around the rest of the building. So this bit of, see how it's like shaky? I think that is just because it was low light. I think that's like, so that's me looking at the room I was streaming from the other end. I think those wobbles were just the camera low light performance. And then here's walking around to the opposite corner. Hopefully there's more light in this room. And now at this point from here, I'm at the complete opposite end of the building. So this room I was streaming from was back there, which means this signal is going through like 3 layers of concrete. And honestly, I'm impressed that it worked so well. So what we're looking for is, someone had mentioned that there were some issues with the picture not looking great. And I'm looking at this now, and it is definitely dark. So I think some of that is the camera's fault of it kind of looking not great, because there's not a ton of light in here. It was already nighttime out because the sun sets very early there, and also there's just not a lot of light in that room. But what I'm looking for is anything that looks like compression or wireless signal dropouts. And honestly, like I see some compression for sure, like around the harsh edges, but it's doing a very good job, and it doesn't look. Yeah, you can see it like when it changes, it'll be a little bit more compression, then it clears up right after that. But I don't see any like what looks like dropouts or frame skips or anything like that. So, yeah, I was very impressed with the performance of that camera. I do think that if the sort of glitches that you're talking about are the ones where, yeah, it's on the very bright parts on the dark background, I think that's the camera. Yeah, when I'm walking around, it's the like stabilization working in the camera. But anyway, let me know if that's the glitches you were talking about, or if there was something else you had seen. Oh yeah, it was like the stacked image when moving. Yeah, I have a feeling that was the camera's not doing super great in low light. Axel Cleveland, thank you for the super chat. How to connect and run Rodecaster Pro to the Yolobox Pro cables and ports. Thank you for the super chat. Let's see if we can take a look at this. The Rodecaster Pro, I still haven't actually got my hands on one. I don't actually own one, but what we can look for is what ports it has on the output. This is the Rodecaster, and I see some ports back here. It looks like they're probably 1/4 inch. So if we go down to the specs, it should tell us. Output connections, USB-C, cool. 1/4 inch balanced TRS stereo. So I believe if it is a, what does it look like? Is it, where's the picture on the back? I want pictures. I just want to see a picture of the back. Oh, here we go. Left and right. Yeah. Okay. So if you, it looks like, yeah, those are for the headphones. Oh, that's why they're 1/4 inch stereo. Those are for the headphones. The main mix comes out of the 1/4 inch. Looks like mono because you have two of them, one for left and one for right. So if you find one of those cables that's the 1/4 inch, like red and black end, and then it goes to the 1/8 inch stereo on the right, which is the one with the 3 segments on the little tip, that will let you connect it. So you'll go from there into one of the mic inputs on the ATEM, and then you need to set your audio settings in the ATEM software control. And I believe, so in the settings, you go to the audio tab, and then general here, and then here is where you would do, you did say ATEM, right? Oh, you said Yolobox, not ATEM. Haha. So same thing though. The Yolobox also has 1/8 inch input. So oh my gosh, Darren, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Wow. Okay. Thanks so much. I was just looking for a picture of the Yolobox. And here is one. So here, mic and line, plug it into the line, and that should do it. And then that should let you get the audio into the Yolobox. But yeah, the cable is going to be something that has the dual 1/4 inch on one end, single 1/8 inch on the other. And that should do it. And thank you for the super chat. And also for Darren. Amazing. All right. I was talking about oh yeah, we heard back from Marcin. It was like the stacked image when moving. I do think that is the camera's fault, and now I'm gonna have to test that more in low light, because that was the first time I've used the E10 in a low light situation. All right, oh my gosh, so many more questions coming in. Again, reminder, just if you have a question, put the letter Q in front and it'll filter it better on my side here. Rick says, speaking of Wacom, have you arranged for a live stream tour of Wacom Portland? Yeah, not yet. I'm working on it. So it is super ironic that they only have 2 of these places, the Wacom Experience Center, and one is in Portland where I live, and the other is in Dusseldorf where I was visiting last week. So super funny. But yeah, I definitely want to take a look at the one here and show you around that space as well. Ben says, I have a Rodecaster Pro using dual 1/4 inch to stereo 3.5mm with the ATEM and it's working fine. Thank you for confirming that, since I don't actually have one. Wonderful. So yeah, that should work into the ATEM and the Yolobox pretty much the same way. Okay. Bailey says, since I'm newish to the MacBook ecosystem, how do you easily and quickly do special characters in text? Oh yeah, do you notice that when I type Düsseldorf without hunting for the U with the umlauts? The secret is I can show you this. The secret is the Option key. So Option U will type an umlaut, and then whatever vowel you press next will get the umlaut. So you can press Option U and then U, and you get the U with the dots over it. Option U A will give you an A with the dots over it. And same thing works for Option E, which gives you the acute accent. And same thing works with, what is it? A just gives you an A with a circle over it. E and U, I think those are the only two I really use anyway. If you want the fancy S, you can press Option S and you get the S set. That is the trick. That is the trick. I used to have to memorize the Alt codes on my, for when I was using a PC back in the day, and it worked with the number pad only, so you'd press like Alt 0248, and that would give you, I think that was the A with the umlauts. Alt 0252 is the U with the umlauts. I used to have all those memorized. Or you can get a keyboard that has the keys too, which is actually what I did for when I'm in German class. I actually use a German keyboard so I can type faster. All right, got some more questions here. So, Kenneth, I might have to follow up with you over email with this one, Kenneth. Feel free to send me an email because actually, I would love to see pictures of how it's falling apart. So it says, my PK1 Extreme stand is slowly falling apart. I've taken it on tour 20 times and I like something more sturdy. Maybe aluminum version. Is that a possibility? Definitely a possibility. I'm thinking about what something designed for portable use would be. I didn't intend these to be assembled and disassembled very much at all. They're not meant for tour use. They're meant for desktop use, which means you assemble them once, you might take it apart a couple more times. But I would like to see pictures of what's happening to it, because then I can make sure that whatever comes next doesn't happen that way, doesn't fail that way. Tim, thank you for the super chat. Been loving your vids. Keep it coming. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I've got a bunch of stuff planned, so definitely stay tuned. James is also reminding me of another way to enter special characters. This only works sometimes. James says you can press and hold the letter key on the keyboard and select the option for the accent marks from the pop-up. That works great on the phone. However, it only works on the computer if you have it is one of the options disabled. I think it's the key repeat. Because normally if you hold down a key, it'll keep typing that key, right? Which is what you want. Do I have like a just text document? Normally what you want to happen, or at least what I want to happen, is if I press on a key, I want it to repeat. So let's see. Okay, apparently key repeat is not turned on right now, even though it says it is in the settings. So if I'm holding down the letter B, it's just not doing it. And if I hold down the letter U, the little pop-up happens, and I can choose what version of the U I want. I normally don't like that because I actually would prefer to have the key repeat. Spacebar is repeating, and backspace is repeating. I guess they changed that. numbers don't repeat. Punctuation repeats. Interesting. So Apple's just doing stuff over here, just changing how my computer works. Fantastic. Well, I guess that means it will work pretty reliably then. Thanks for the tip. Cool. Hold down works on by default on Mac now. Okay, yeah, it must have been a recent update because I swear it used to not. James says, I think it's been the default for the past 2 OS releases. Well, that might show you how often I update my OS. I try to avoid it whenever possible. Cool. Okay. Back to the video world. Phil has a question. What cheap HDMI camera do you recommend? It's sad that no USB to HDMI converter is available that allows the usage of webcams. My main camera is A6400. I'm looking for a cheap secondary cam. I would say if you're already on a Sony camera, you should probably stick to a Sony camera as your second camera, just because it'll be more familiar and you won't have to worry about how to get to navigate the different menus. The A6400 is a totally fine camera, and I have a feeling you can actually get one at a reasonable price used at this point. It looks like they are $900 new, so you might be able to get some of them, get a good price on a used one. Or the at this point, the Sony ZV-E10 is maybe another good option to look at, because that one is, what is it? $700, so a little bit cheaper, smaller, and really good autofocus, really good features on it. It's not necessarily cheap. Like if you're looking for something like $200 or $300, obviously that's not it. If you don't mind getting away from the Sony ecosystem, then I still always love the Lumix G7, because you can get it very cheap. So it is, this is the Lumix G7, and the reason I like this one, where did I have the page up? The reason I like this one is because of how cheap you can find it. So new, it's like, I think it's $500 new. Ooh, it's back ordered. $600 new with a lens, but you can also get body only if you already have a Micro Four Thirds lens. But you can often find these used on eBay, although sorry, I've been buying some of them, so there's fewer available. I have several of them around the studio now. And you can find them sometimes for like $300 or $400, which is a good option. So, yeah. Okay. What else? Ooh, here's a question from Livebrook Video Streaming. Many new users have complained about the performance of live streaming devices, Yolobox, ATEM Mini, everything. Yeah, from your experience, how can they manage expectations? Interesting question. Let's see. Performance. So this is a complicated question. Let's see. How can you manage expectations? I think getting a sense of what the devices are capable of before jumping in to like making a decision about one way or the other is a good idea, especially since it is a significant investment to like buy one of these. That is why I try to show a lot of how these work in these videos and these live streams. I try to actually show what it looks like to use them so you can get a sense of it. None of the tools are like perfect. Obviously, there's always going to be limits to any of the tools. So it's figure out what those limits are, just so that you kind of know. I think one of the big, the video I did about the Yolobox versus ATEM, I talked about this, where it is those two devices in particular have very different ways of thinking about the whole concept of live streaming, and it is very likely that any particular person is going to associate better with one of those ways of thinking than the other. And that device will be a much better experience for you if you think that way. So the big difference being like the ATEM side is much more, it does, all these pieces do a small thing and you have to add a bunch of things into the pile to make it do a whole thing. Whereas the Yolobox tries to do all the things on one box without having to really think about many different pieces. And neither of those are wrong or better than the other. It's just how you like to think about it. But I do think that looking for not just reviews, but like actual people trying to use them, is like showing you how they work and how they are used, is a really good idea, because it can give you a sense of, if you're trying to do something, how are you going to be actually interacting with this device. Hopefully that helps. Roland says, your comments about the different paradigms is spot on. I adore the ATEM ecosystem and I can't stand the Yolobox. Yeah, but it's not like one is better than the other. There's just, for some people, they are much, much more likely to think in terms of building blocks, connect these wires to make this thing work, and some people are just like, I don't want to deal with wires. I don't want all of those connections. I just want it to work. So, yeah. MJ says, what Behringer mixer are you using? It's the XR18. Although, funny story. So I didn't realize, let's see, this is the XR18. This is what I'm using right now, for example, and this is what you're hearing me through. This is the this is my microphone's plugged into one of these ports, and then the aux XLR goes into the ATEM over the 1/8 inch cable. I didn't realize this, but there's a Midas version of this. I think it's called the MR18, and it just has like slightly better preamps in it. Other than that, it's basically the same device. And I bought this from Sweetwater a couple months ago, and then the Midas version was out of stock. And I asked them, I was like, hey, I really like this thing. I'm thinking about, would I be better off with the Midas version? Can you let me know when it comes in stock? And they were very, very willing to work with me. And I'm actually, right after this stream, swapping them out. So they sent me the Midas version. I did the thing where like they just charge my card instead of having to deal with returns, like exchanges or anything. So I essentially bought the Midas version. I'm installing it right after this show, sending back the Behringer version and getting that refunded. So they were super willing to work with me on that. It's great. I appreciate that. And that's what I'll be using next week. Very similar device, but should be slightly better audio preamps. I was like a $200, $100 or $200 extra price bump, but I was like, I figure like it's worth it. So that is what I'm using. John says, how is the ATEM when it comes to long-term streaming? I run a 24/7 stream. I was thinking of using the ATEM to control the encoding and free up some resources on the OBS PC. Yeah, I would definitely not trust a PC to do that for 24/7. I think I would have no trouble with the ATEM running 24/7. I haven't done it myself, but I have run it for a very long time. It will definitely be a better option than OBS on a PC. I don't think you'll regret doing that. Austin Miller says, is there a way to do 720p on the Yolobox, limited bandwidth in our location, or do they just use variable bitrate to navigate that? Yeah, I don't think there's a way to scale down to 720, but you do get a lot of bitrate options. You can do, you can choose like a target bitrate, but you can also have it do variable as well. Chris says, is there a way to connect an audio interface to the ATEM Mini mic in without it buzzing? And yes, I did set the ATEM to line level, and I did move other power sources away from the ATEM power. Yeah, ground loops are annoying, and it's not always as simple as... Actually, sometimes connecting them to other power sources can cause the problem. So it's like, I swear it's just a bunch of black magic. No pun intended. But the problem is when there is a circuit created that goes through the ground line. So it actually sometimes is better if you can get everything connected into one ground. But some of these devices don't have ground pins, which is where some of this problem starts. But anyway, all that said, there is a very simple solution to this, and I'm looking for it, but I think it's on the other side of this desk. It is this little device. It is called a isolator. Let me double check that's the right word. No. Audio coupler. What's it called? I swear isolator is the right word. Audio isolator transformer. Someone's gonna in the chat's gonna figure it out before I figure it out. It is ground loop eliminator is what Roland says. Okay, here's one that, like, this is not the one that I have, but they're all essentially the same at this point. Here, I will drop this link in. So basically what you're looking for is something like this, ground loop isolator, and it is sometimes they have a cable on one end, sometimes I think this is jacks on both ends. Yeah. So it has 1/8 inch on both ends, and you plug it into like along the chain. So plug your output device into this, plug this into the ATEM, and it's just a little transformer that essentially prevents there from being an actual electrical connection between the two devices, and that gets rid of the hum. I tend to think of that as like a last resort, but it does work fine. And they're cheap, which is nice. Okay. Questions. Oh, Roland is helping here in the chat too. Ensure they're plugged into the same main circuit. Use a ground loop eliminator and ensure the input is set correctly to line level. Yep. Bailey says you should install it on the show. Use the Rode Wireless Go for audio while installing. Maybe. We'll see. Here's another question. Would you recommend using a Raspberry Pi for controlling a Stream Deck in a professional production? Yeah. Yep, I think I would. I'm using the Raspberry Pi to control this Stream Deck right now. This is plugged directly into the Raspberry Pi, and I use it for everything, and it's great. The only sort of caveat there is if you're like packing up and turning everything off and on all the time, you'll want to make sure you have a way to shut down the Raspberry Pi properly and not just yank the power, because that will eventually corrupt the SD card. And so you want like a real shutdown button, or to make sure I think you can make a Stream Deck button that actually turns the Raspberry Pi off, if you're going to be powering it down all the time. But it's been super solid for me. I have had no complaints about that thing. Bailey says, a question from somebody else. My number one HDMI stopped working. Is this a setting? I don't think I understand the question. Oh, here's more details. I had a problem with HDMI 1. I had to plug my camera into HDMI 2 to see the camera. Oh, yeah. Okay, so there is a difference on the ATEM between HDMI input 1 and the other 3. And the reason is HDMI 1 is a different chip so that it can do the ultra low latency pass through to the HDMI out. And because of that, it's a different chip. And for whatever reason, it just sometimes doesn't work with certain things. And I think the more often than like a particular device refuses to work, it's certain cables or cable lengths that don't work. So if you're using like a long cable, first try shortening the cable to see if it works in that input. And if that's the case, then there's something about that long cable that's causing the problem. For example, if it's not well insulated, then you might be getting interference in the long cable, or sometimes it's just too much of a voltage drop across the cable and it can't get the signal strong enough at the other end. So check the cable first if that's what's happening, because it also depends on what the source device is. So when like some cameras don't put out a strong enough signal on the HDMI to work with longer cables, and other cameras will work fine with the exact same cable. So that's kind of the that's the problem. Oh, Roland said I think he was talking about the Yolobox, not the ATEM. Then, as far as I know, the Yolobox does have the same chips on both inputs. I'm not 100% sure, but I was pretty sure they do. And that'd be very strange on the Yolobox. I would not expect to see that problem. So you may need to talk to them if you're having that problem on the Yolobox. Cool. Okay. Other questions, make sure you do mention or put the letter Q in front. We're just getting swamped with questions today. I haven't even had a chance to show you some of my other fun stuff, so I might have to keep the stream going for a little bit longer. Lewis says, can I control the quality of the Yolobox while recording? Yeah, I believe well, you can't change the setting while you're streaming. I don't remember if you can change the setting while it's recording if you're not streaming. I think you can. But you definitely can change the quality the Yolobox is streaming at. What is the reason for a Raspberry Pi for streaming? I use it only for controlling the Stream Deck. So the Stream Deck, this USB is plugged directly into the Raspberry Pi, and that's the only thing the Raspberry Pi is doing. So the Raspberry Pi is only just running this and running that software that powers this. The Raspberry Pi is the one that talks to the ATEM and has those buttons on the Stream Deck. And that's all that thing is doing. So it's not running any of the video or any of the graphics or anything like that. I do sometimes use it as an RTMP server to show a picture over HDMI, but I actually have a new favorite device for that I used on the Yolobox stream. Keith, bye. See you later. Oh, I see your question. I just was about to get to it too. What is your favorite wireless system now that you have tested some? Favorite HDMI wireless? Good question. I don't know if I would say I have a favorite yet. So I've used the Hollyland ones for a while. I don't have these right within arm's reach, unfortunately. So one of my favorites is the Hollyland that does not have the antennas that poke out. It's the 300, I want to say. It's the one that's all just one unit. The reason I like it is because it doesn't have the antennas, so it packs smaller into a little bag. Obviously, the lack of the external antennas means it's going to do worse with interference, so I didn't want to risk that in the stream at Wacom because I knew I was going to be going through like 3 walls. So for that one, I was testing out the Cosmo C1. It worked great. I was very impressed. The other ones I've been using are the Cine. They have HDMI and SDI versions, and those have the 4 antennas, which look really scary. Not a big fan of the look of them, but they do work well also. But yeah, I don't know if I would say I have a favorite yet. A lot of them are different combinations of inputs and outputs as well. So like the little Hollyland that I like, the little 300, it has HDMI on both transmitter and receiver. So but the transmitter has HDMI pass through. So that's actually really great for using for getting someone's like slides from their computer into a stream, which coincidentally is exactly what I did in Germany for the event that I was streaming on the Yolobox. which I do want to talk about that because that was what the thumbnail was today. So at some point I'm going to get to that. Let me put a pause on that discussion so I can actually fully talk about that setup, and I'll talk about the wireless situation there. Cool. Okay, a couple questions coming in about chat. So I'm going to link you to a video that I did. I gotta close these tabs. So many tabs open. I think I have a link in this video already at the bottom. And it is, where is it? Yeah, okay. I'm gonna drop this in the chat as well, but it's in the video description. How I show chat messages on this stream. So that is where I talk about the chat plugin that I use for YouTube comments, and that is definitely how I recommend that you get started in that. You can use it. You can do it either through OBS or you can do it in just a full screen HDMI. But that video talks about the whole setup of it. So let's see, yeah. And then people are asking about how do I do it with Zoom questions. The plugin that I wrote does not currently work with Zoom. I believe the one that Steve forked from mine, no, it does not support Zoom either. So what I would say with Zoom is I absolutely cannot stand the Zoom Q&A feature. I just do not like how it works. And instead what I've been doing when I'm in Zoom is using Slido. Slido is a totally separate website. It is just a little Q&A website. And what I do is I create a Slido link for the event, and I disable Q&A in Zoom, and I tell people in Zoom, and I drop a link in chat, go here to ask questions. And that gives them a little website they can go and type in questions there. They can upvote other questions, and you can also do polls and stuff, which is really fun. And then you can just full screen that and do it in a little picture-in-picture, or switch to that and put your presenter in the corner when you're doing the stream in Zoom, or screen share into Zoom works also. So that, I think, is a better option in Zoom. Bailey says, yeah, don't get me started on Zoom Q&A. It's not good. It is not a good system. Bailey says, for the extreme, I believe it is input 1 and 2 that has a better chip and can be wrong. No, yeah, that's exactly right. Was there a discussion about that I missed? Yeah, on the ATEM Mini Extreme, it looks like there was a whole discussion in here that I didn't see. But yeah, the ATEM Mini with the 4 inputs, input 1 is special. On the Extreme with 8, inputs 1 and 2 are special because there's 2 HDMI outs. So same thing. I don't like Zoom what my client does. Zoom itself is fine. I have no problem with Zoom. I like Zoom. It does a lot of things very well. I just do not like their Q&A. Their Q&A thing is horrible. But yeah, I don't have any problem actually using Zoom. I use it for workshops all the time and stuff. But I just funnel people out of it for asking questions because I cannot stand their Q&A. Kevin says, can you recommend a switch to turn the ATEM Mini off and on? There's a lot of different ways you can go with that. If I actually use, I have switches for some of my gear because some of the stuff I do have to restart, like my old HyperDeck, I sometimes have to restart it before it'll work again. And the web presenter too has been a little bit flaky. So I have it on a switch where I can disable it remotely. Funny story about the stream from Germany. Right before I left for Germany, I was like, I should probably put that web presenter on a Z-Wave switch so I can turn it off while I'm over there in case it gets hung up. And sure enough, it did in fact get hung up and I had to reboot it. So right before I was about to go live, I was like, oh my God, the on-air button isn't working. What's going on? And then I was like, good thing I have that switch. And I just go in and turn it off remotely, turn it back on, and then it was fine. The the Tapo Wi-Fi enabled. I'm super skeptical of the Wi-Fi ones because I don't like the way that they work, which is usually they go and call up some cloud service to connect. Which is why I run everything through Home Assistant, which is just a whole nother rabbit hole to go down. And the Home Assistant runs on a server in my studio, and it has a USB dongle that talks Z-Wave directly to the switch. So there is no internet involved. It's only as much internet as I am bringing into the picture. And that's my preferred way to do it. But that's a whole other rabbit hole to go down. Question about Canon cameras, which other people are thankfully answering for me. I have a problem with my Canon 70D. It turns off after 30 minutes. Not really a Yolobox question, but a camera on the Yolo question. Fair enough. That's totally fine. But I don't have any Canon cameras. I moved away from those a long time ago, unfortunately, because what I was noticing was there's no cheap ones that have clean HDMI out. And I was like, I don't want to have to spend this much on a camera just to get clean HDMI out. But Harold says, many Canon cameras switch off after 30 minutes, not just when recording, which is a little terrifying. So that's too bad. Not recording, just filming. I don't know. It could be sometimes they have like overheating settings too. I know some of the Sony cameras do this, where by default they'll shut down when they think it's getting too hot, but you can sometimes disable the overheating threshold. So see if the Canon camera has that, but I don't know. I don't use them because I feel like they are better as photography cameras until you start getting into like the super expensive cinema stuff. Canon's a pain in the butt because they leave the no record limit to their cinema lineup, which is over $1,500. Exactly. Yeah. So that's why I like the little Lumix G7 with its clean HDMI out. And I've had this camera on basically 24/7 since March 2020 at this point. So it's been great. Roland says the Tapo ones work even when the internet is down. That's cool. I'll have to take a look at that. Still, I don't trust Wi-Fi devices. I would rather have it be not Wi-Fi enabled. Chris says, I tried contacting you to send you samples of on-off switches I designed for ATEMs. Cool. I definitely didn't see that email. I'm sorry. My inbox is a giant mess. So send me an email again. Sorry I didn't see it the first time. Do a search on eBay for ATEM Mini power switch. My switch I designed is listed there. Cool. Well, yeah, send me an email again and see what we can do. Try using a dummy battery with Canon. Runs for hours. Interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna leave the Canon questions to somebody else though, because again, I don't have any Canon cameras at this point. Cool. Okay. A couple other questions here. How do you add live chat on both YouTube and Facebook? So my extension doesn't work on Facebook because I don't use Facebook. But again, the one that Steve forked from mine does support Facebook. Here is the Steve's chat plugin, and that is he added support for a couple other sites. One of them is Facebook. I don't know exactly what this means. I don't know why it wouldn't support LTE, but I'm sure he has better docs on it here. But in any case, like to get it on both, it doesn't. You just need the like you're going to be putting it into your video, right? So like whatever, you just need to get the chat messages on the screen somewhere. But I would take a look at his plugin if you're going to be streaming to Facebook. I have an Mini Extreme ISO, and on the input 3, I always get a black line about 3 to 4 pixels width on the left side. It doesn't matter what I put in the input. Ooh, always? So I've had a similar issue sometimes, although I suspect it's coming from my SDI converters, not the ATEM. And it's more than 3 to 4 pixels. It'll usually be like a chunk, I don't know, maybe 10 or so. And it goes away if I unplug and replug the HDMI connection. So it's like a sync issue. So if I just unplug and replug it back in, it syncs up and then it's fine. I've had that happen, but I've never seen it happen like always on one input. So I don't know about that. Oh gosh, okay. Please don't double up your questions because then they show up again and it looks like I haven't answered them. Bailey says, do you still have the other YouTubers' studio images? I guess you don't have the green screen set up, so you can't do it. I do still have their pictures, but yeah, this is the actual background today, not a green screen, so I can't just switch over to those. I do have SDI converters on them. Yeah, I have a feeling it has something to do with going through the conversion, but if you unplug the HDMI and replug it back in, it should sync up right. That's fix it every time on mine. Kino Making says, have you seen the cage for the Yolobox from YC Onion? I like your Yolobox stance, but could you modify the design and add clips for HDMI cables? Yeah, the clips are nice. That's a cool idea. I think this goes back to my intended use of the stand. So here's one we're talking about. The YC Onion Yolobox cage. I should just make a link for this to drop in the chat. It is a different take on a Yolobox cage than my stands. It is a cage, not a stand, first of all. And it's really meant for, like, obviously it's got a tripod, screws and stuff here, but they do have these cool little things up here to grab HDMI cables. And I think it's a cool idea. But kind of going back to the design of how I expected these to be used. This is why it says it's a desktop stand, because like I don't expect people to be using this on a tripod. Like you still technically can attach the Yolobox on a tripod and then just use these to mount stuff to it, I guess. But that's not really how I was expecting it to be used. So I don't know if I would recommend doing that. But this is meant to be used on a desk. And on a desk, I don't think that HDMI cable clips are going to really give you anything because you shouldn't be using cables that are like tugging the thing off the desk anyway. And if you are, those need to be attached to the table, not the Yolobox. So, yeah, that's the deal. Oh, speaking of, I totally forgot to mention this at the beginning. We have a new retailer for the stands, for all the stands. I updated the website already. So the store buttons, there is now an option for the UK. And all of the stands should be there. So if you go here, there should be a UK link. And these are all available from a retailer in the UK now. This is the website, and you can buy it in pounds now. So yeah, super, super cool. Super excited to have that new retailer listed on the page. So if you are in the UK and you haven't yet bought any of these stands, you can get them local now and not have to deal with importing from the EU anymore. So that is super exciting. MT says, any guess why a web presenter, first one, connected on HDMI in, turns the whole picture colored green? Already changed cables, only a short connection. I've seen that happen on some things before. I don't have the original web presenter, but I think that has to do with the color space the sending device is in, and they didn't negotiate it right. So sometimes unplugging it and replugging it back in will fix it because they'll be like, oh, they'll figure out how to talk to each other. Sometimes it's just not going to work no matter what you use. Sometimes there's like a mode setting on the device of like switching it into different modes, but it totally depends on what you're plugging into to which. Steve says, how are you feeling about the ZV-1 versus ZV-E10 for travel? Good question. ZV-1 versus ZV-E10. So I did bring both, but I brought both on the trip because I wanted to be able to use two cameras for streaming. So I had the ZV-1, the small one. Did I lost my stream from Dusseldorf. I had that up here. Oops, that's the one that's live right now. So I had the ZV-1 was this shot, and the ZV-E10 was the one I was holding in my hand. And why did I do it that way? Now I don't remember why I did it that way. Anyway, this is definitely bigger than the E10 or the ZV-1. It's significantly larger. It's smaller than the A6400, so I like that about it. I think it was a good setup, a good dual camera setup. I think it worked pretty well for that. I liked having the option of, like, if I'm going out for the day, to just walk around town, just bring only the small one. I don't know which one I would say is like better, but they made a good pair. Yeah, they did make a good pair. Oh, here's a question from Jack. I know you can USB tether an iPhone to the ATEM, but can you tether a hotspot device like a jetpack? I don't remember what the jetpack is, but I have a feeling it's Verizon jetpack, like this one. So I believe yes, I believe as long as there is a USB connection available on the device, it should work. I have tried it with the little, it's a little LTE USB dongle, and that one did work. So I would assume other things would work also. Yeah, I don't think it cares that it's a phone. I think it just cares that it can talk USB and speak tethering protocol, whatever that is. I don't actually know how that works. Here's a question from earlier that I missed. How do you integrate your Yolobox with your live streams? I only use mine by itself, first integrated with my PC. Okay, so I do want to talk about this because I do want to talk about we're already in an hour and 20 minutes in, and I haven't even, like, this always happens. Questions are wonderful. But sometimes I need to jump into my main program sooner. So what I did with the stream, the remote stream, was I brought the Yolobox. You can see it on the desk there. I think I have a picture, which would be a lot easier to see than this thumbnail or this very low lit picture here. What I did was, where's my Lightroom? Okay. What I did was I brought the Yolobox. There's my picture. Okay. And my Apple TV is not plugged in. We need to fix that. I need to fix my Apple TV. We're going to go and switch. I don't need the overhead one. Okay. So we're going to go take my overhead, which is input 7, switch it to the Apple TV, and then I can AirPlay my iPad to that. That'll work. And then the question is, does Lightroom do fancy AirPlay out? No, it doesn't. Okay, so I'm going to export this to my camera. all this just to show you this picture of the streaming rig. Come on, export to the camera roll. Where is the picture? Why is it not showing up? Oh, it's probably because it's sorted by date. Should have done this ahead of time. That's what I get for not planning out my shows. Here we go. Okay. And then super source with the iPad. Yay. Okay. That's what I brought with me. So this is what I was looking at from the Wacom office. Yolobox over here. 2 cameras plugged in. I think, oh yeah, obviously there's only one thumbnail showing because I think the other camera was the one I used to take this picture. Yolobox there. Everything was running off of batteries. Interestingly, I didn't actually plug anything into their power. I had the wireless receiver over here. I had my computer to show. Oh, this was after the stream was done. I had my computer to show the chat and run my control, as well as look at the multi-view, which you can see behind there. And here's my other camera, fixed camera. So the Yolobox was streaming not to YouTube. The Yolobox was streaming to my studio. And that is the trick that makes a lot of this stuff happen for me. And I like that option where, Yolobox obviously can stream to YouTube, but I like having it stream to my studio because basically what it means is it ends up showing up in the ATEM. So I have a device here that receives the RTMP stream, and it pops up in one of these boxes. So that is that's the trick. Is this actually was just pushing it into my ATEM setup at home. And what that means is I get to use the same music, the same countdown, same chat, everything that is part of my normal stream. I get to use that all, but while out on the road. So, and then I didn't want to send 2 cameras over the internet, right? So that's why, again, what the Yolobox is good for, where the Yolobox is doing the switching between the 2 cameras and sending only one video feed out to my studio. So, okay, that's how I did that stream. Then I want to show you the other event that I did while I was in Germany, which is okay. I did a couple other events. So I was helping out with an event that the event I spoke at was in a big room. It was in a big venue with like a stage. I have a picture of, I have a couple pictures of me here. And that one was, I don't know what that was. That was a weird layout. This was, me on the stage with the slides and everything. The way that this worked was, it was actually someone who you've seen on this live, like in the live stream in the chat before. And they, that was Mark. And he was essentially he set up the whole video situation for his own conference, which is like, I do not recommend that conference organizers also run their own video streaming setup, because like that's a great way to just have too many things going on at once and something's gonna go wrong. But it worked out fine. He did have a volunteer actually running the stream and the camera, so he wasn't doing the camera himself. But I snuck a picture. I keep pushing the wrong button. I snuck a picture of the setup. It was his ATEM Extreme over here with the web presenter, recording to the SSD and streaming to his video platform, and then the one camera here with a nice big telephoto lens for the speaker. And honestly, the setup worked great. The end result of the recordings was this this layout that you get with the multi-view, right? Because you use the Extreme for the multi-view, and this was the layout that was used for the event. So it starts off full screen on the presenter, and then he switches over into the multi-view side-by-side layout. And the volunteer was essentially just switching between input 1 split screen layouts and running the camera, and it worked super well. And it was just streaming the whole time and recording the whole time. Then he split up the recordings, did it later, and published them later. So that was this was the sort of pile of video gear for that event. And then 2 days later, he brought the same kit to the brand new library that opened up. They were running a separate event, much smaller scale. It was a couple of people talking about web accessibility, which was cool, and set up the same set of gear, but on this little table in the back. And this is where I got to use that Hollyland transmitter, which turns out is great for slides, because we didn't have a lot of time to set up this and didn't have much volunteer either. This was like a way smaller event, and we didn't have any cable, didn't want to run any cables, so everything is on the back except obviously the people who are presenting are at the front of the room. And for that, we used the Hollyland. I brought the tiny one with the no antennas, and the reason for that is because the up at the front, it's the transmitter has the HDMI pass through. So up the front, we plug in their laptop to the transmitter. The output goes to the TV that's up in the front, and then it's the wireless link to the back of the room into that receiver, which worked great. So that was that event. And then the next day was an event that I run. And for that one, I thought I took pictures. For that one, I didn't ask Mark to bring his whole kit for that event. I just wanted to do it myself. And for that one, I brought the Yolobox. So that one is here. And you're going to laugh at the difference between the two. Oh my God, where did it go? Here it is. The difference in the kits. That's the kit that I ran the other event with. So it's the Yolobox and the same HDMI. So the HDMI worked the same way. We had the transmitter up at the front of the room, the receiver attached to the Yolobox stand, and I used the Rode wireless mics instead of any wired stuff. So just there's no audio mixer, which is nice. It's just that you can see it on the back there. And then only one camera for this. So I just had one camera. You can kind of see it there of just the front of the room. But I do have their slides brought in full screen. And then because we're using the Yolobox, I can do image overlays also built in with like on the on-screen controls. And in this case, I did actually stream not to YouTube, but to the website for that event. I have Owncast running for that event, and that was pushing directly to that webpage, and then recording on the Yolobox for editing later. So yeah, one camera. The lens obviously can't zoom in nearly as much as that other lens. So that was the closest I could get with the ZV-E10, but it worked. And then yeah, it was great. I don't know. It was like the difference in gear. I need to get these side by side. That one and that one. Where do I add these to a album? Add to. Do I have a live stream album? Just need to make a new album. Oh my God, my keyboard's in German. Okay. The live stream. Here we go. Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's telling to see the difference between the what's required to use the ATEM for a kit compared to the Yolobox. Yeah. The only downside to this one is the Yolobox doesn't do the full side-by-side layout the same way. I keep bugging them about this. I hope they add this, but I really like the layout of the where you have the full uncropped slides, and then one camera that's cropped on the sides. And you don't get that on the Yolobox. You can do side by side where both are cropped, and you can choose how much of both are cropped all the way till full side by side, but you can't then scale one or the other. So the layouts are more limited. That is something they can change in firmware just with the software update. So I'm hoping they're going to let me make this layout, because I want this layout on the Yolobox. And then I'll be very happy. But I do still like how little gear that took to run that event. What Hollyland model was that? That was the Mars 300 Pro. Hollyland Mars 300 Pro is that one. And again, it's not the... You're going to definitely have some interference issues if you're trying to go through walls and stuff, because it does not have the external antennas, but I like how small it packs up. Roland says, is there actually a question about why we need OAuth in current year? It's pretty much ubiquitous. It is, but people don't know why. And then people get mad at it, and they think they're mad at OAuth, and they're actually mad about other things. Watch the talk. It's a good talk. I had fun putting that together. Has anybody done studies on accessibility of streaming equipment like the ATEM? Good question. I don't know. I have no idea what the accessibility world thinks of those kinds of devices. It's such a niche world compared to, like, I don't know, every website. So I don't know how much attention it gets from that world. Those were good talks, though. A lot of good things to think about when designing, anything really, but the focus was on websites. Bailey says, that is amazing. You're right. I laughed. Yeah. That was... I just don't like bringing lots of gear when I travel. Okay. So, that was that project. Oh, here's a question related to that. Roland says, what was pandemic travel like? I've been staying home for the last couple of years. Yeah, let me talk a little bit about that. It was really interesting. I was really worried about how complicated it was going to be. And I've gone to LA earlier this year. I think it was June or May or June. I went to LA, I went to San Francisco, I went to Seattle. All West Coast, domestic. Those were all very simple. It was nothing out of the ordinary, because other than like masks everywhere, of course, but like there's no paperwork because it's all domestic. International is a whole different story. And I was really worried about, like, okay, I'm transferring through London. What rules about UK do I need to know in order to get through the airport? And then I'm going to Germany. What rules do I need to know about to get into Germany? And I was trying to do research, and it was very hard. And it was finding conflicting information because the rules change so often. And I finally determined that both airports, you need a passenger locator form to get in. And the passenger locator form is basically just like, go to a website and say your flight info and like when you're planning on going and leaving. And then I determined that I did not need to do anything special in terms of immigration or testing to get through the UK, because I was not leaving the airport. I was only going through the airport. And then in Germany, the website is just, it's just so German. They're like, the rule is you quarantine for 10 days when you arrive. And I was like, that's not going to work because I'm not going to be there for 10 days total. So I was like, crap, what is this going to work? And it's like, the rule is quarantine for 10 days. And then like once you read 3 paragraphs down, it's like, you can get out of your quarantine requirement by providing proof of vaccination. And I was like, that is not how I would have phrased that web page. I would have maybe opened with that. So did not need to quarantine. And I was just so worried about like how complicated this was going to be to like, who do I show forms to? Are they going to accept my US little scrappy little card that I scribbled on, that the doctor scribbled on? Are they going to accept the QR code version from the US that I managed to get from my insurance company? And after all that, I made a text file on my phone in the Notes app, and I just put all the documentation I could find of like all the forms, copies of all the forms, copies of all the QR codes, photos of anything I could think of. I put it all in there. I was like, this is just, all I can do is I just have everything and figure it out later. It ended up being so much simpler. I got to the Portland airport to go check in. I couldn't get a boarding pass ahead of time because they had to do the passport check at the airport. Went to the front desk and they were like, do you have your passenger locator form filled out for Germany? And I was like, yeah, here's the document. They didn't even like look at it. They were just like, yeah, you have it. Printed out the boarding pass with pre-check, flew through security, got to Seattle to London. At London, nothing different. Zero difference. It was just like a normal, you get off the plane, go through the terminal, get to the new terminal. Nothing different there. At the desk, at the terminal, I had to do another check where they called me up for a passport check, and I had to show them my passenger locator form there as well. Sorry, that was in Seattle to get to London. That was the only check there. London was easy. Terminal to going to Dusseldorf, nothing different there. No checks, nothing. Getting off of the plane in Dusseldorf, before passport check, there were cops in the hallway doing document checks of vaccine cards. So I showed them the card on my phone, like my Apple Wallet QR code, showed that to them. They did not scan it, and they just looked at it, looked at my passport. You're good. And I went through passport control. It was just so simple. Like, nobody scanned anything. Nobody really did anything complicated. It was very straightforward. I was way overthinking it, essentially. Yeah. So you'll appreciate this. Lynn Haga says, we have a COVID passport here in Europe. If you're vaccinated, really simple. You need to show it on your phone. Yeah, so I have a similar thing in the US. I was able to get a QR code loaded into my Apple Wallet from my insurance company, because that's how it works in the US. And obviously that QR code does not scan from the EU apps because they use different standards for it, which I have dug into, and the standards are fascinating. And I'm hopefully going to write that up too, because that's interesting. In Europe, I went to a pharmacy and I showed my physical card from the US, and then I got the EU passport. I got the EU COVID passport. So I have the QR code from the EU now as well. And I have that loaded up into the German app. So super, super easy. And now, hopefully, next time I go there, it is even easier. Although, honestly, it was just so simple that there was nothing. I was way, way worried about how complicated it was going to be. And basically, it was a lot less formal than I was expecting it to be. So that was good. Yeah. All right. That was a little diversion. Okay. Oh, Chris says, I enjoyed your cameo on Photo Joseph's ATEM Mini tips. Yes. That was fun. I don't even remember when I recorded that. It was a while ago. That was a lot of fun. Bailey says, new mixer time, wink, wink. Oh my God, we're coming up on 2 hours. No, not yet, because there's still one more thing I want to do. I don't know if I'm going to install that live. It's not going to be very interesting. But what I do want to show you live is my plan for the next time I do a live stream from outside of the studio. The plan for my next remote live stream. So for the stream I did from Germany, I brought the Yolobox and I brought 2 cameras. And it's a reasonable amount of gear. So, oh my gosh, I lost that picture already. Here's the desk. So this amount of gear is, I feel like it's manageable, right? It's the Yolobox. I did bring my stand. The cable to go from, don't underestimate cables. Like, cables take up space. And I keep having to remind myself of this. The cable from the Hollyland transmitter to the ATEM, short one, I needed a semi-long cable to go from that camera to the Yolobox. Another short cable on the handheld camera to go to the transmitter, and then the transmitter and the receiver themselves. Battery to power the camera, external battery to power the camera because I didn't want to run it off of only the built-in battery. Wireless microphone, which packs up into a little small case. It does start to add up, and it starts to be a bit of stuff to bring. So what I'm now trying to do is, if I'm going to be traveling and I want to travel even lighter, what's the actual minimum I can bring to do a remote live stream? And because I do prefer pushing from the remote place into my studio and broadcasting to YouTube from my studio, because then I can do the graphics and chat and the countdown music and all that the same way, I'm willing to still, sort of do that kind of workflow. So my next plan for the next time I am doing a remote stream is to bring only this, literally only this, and extra batteries. So this is the Lumix GH5 II, which I just got on Friday. And the reason I got this one is because this has built-in RTMP streaming into the camera, which I never thought I would have a use for, but it turns out this is a perfect use of it. So Rode Wireless Go on the top, and then this thing connects to a Wi-Fi access point, and then it can broadcast to an RTMP server. So yes, you can push directly from this to YouTube. I would never do that because I don't want to, you never know when you're really live, like if you start streaming, are you really live? Tap, is this thing on? Like, can you hear me? I don't want that as the beginning of the stream. I want to know that the stream, the RTMP connection is working, and then be able to go from the countdown music to the show. So what I can use this for is streaming to my studio. So this is, this works way better than I thought it was going to. Once it's set up, and once you have like the Wi-Fi info loaded into this, when you turn the camera on, let's see if I can show it to you on this one. When you turn the camera on, it's going to attempt to connect to Wi-Fi immediately, whatever the last saved Wi-Fi was. Connect to the Wi-Fi, and then you're ready to stream. Come on. There we go. Okay. So this is now connected to my Wi-Fi. Streaming mode is on. The Rode Wireless Go is connected. And as soon as I hit record, it's going to, instead of record, it's going to start streaming. So watch that box. If I just press go, look at that. Do you see how fast that was? Watch this. Okay, ready? I'm going to press off, and I'm going to press on. That is an RTMP feed going to the ATEM. The latency of this is somehow magical. So I will actually switch to that camera on the stream, and you'll see. So wait, how can you compare the latency? Well, I'll just switch to that one first. This is the stream from the... Oh, the two audios are on. Turn off the other audio. This is the audio from the Rode Wireless Go and the camera, Rode Wireless Go into the camera, and you're looking at the video from the camera. So this is a little bit delayed compared to the, not going over RTMP. If I turn on the other microphone, you'll hear the delay. So this is both audio on, and you're hearing an echo, which is the amount of echo you're hearing is the RTMP delay.
And it's
way low, way lower than I thought it was going to be. So if I just go back to, oh geez, I left the audio off. Um, this is what I get for fiddling with my audio settings. Okay, let me switch back. Let me show you that again. So I was trying to show you the latency here. So if you look at my hand in the picture compared to my hand on the actual video, you'll see the latency. Here's my hand. It's pretty good, right? It's like, I don't know, really, really brief. So that is impressive. So I think, yeah, this is what I'm bringing next time. It'll be just this camera. I will probably also bring a, this can connect to my phone, like my phone's hotspot, my phone's Wi-Fi, but I might bring a travel router instead and give my travel router internet through my phone and have this connect to the travel router Wi-Fi, because what that lets me do is connect my computer to the travel router also, in case I want to get on the VPN. So we'll see about that. The latency of that. So is the latency more than the Hollyland? Yes. The reason is because that's RTMP. That is going RTMP over Wi-Fi to the RTMP device that's in my rack. Speaking of, I need to drop that link in now. So that is the that is Magewell Pro Converts. So the RTMP server is this one. It's not cheap, but it's H260X to SDI, and it looks like the web interface looks like this. So it's got a little web interface. It's like a reasonably laid out web interface. This is because it's live. It's telling me the stats of what video is coming in. This is the video signal coming in right now, and basically what you can do all sorts of stuff with it, but I just have it mostly just all this stuff is disabled. You can turn on like audio meters and stuff, which I would not use for this. And then this is how you define the RTMP server. So it is listening. It says 127.0.0.1, but like this thing has an IP address on my network, right? The IP address is up in this address bar. So essentially I'm streaming to that IP address, or I've port forwarded it through my router so I can get to it from the internet. And then that is then the RTMP server, and that's it. So it's super, super simple. And then it's essentially like a grown-up version of the little hack I did with the Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi version, which coincidentally stopped working on the latest OS because they took out OMX Player. But the Raspberry Pi thing that I made is an RTMP server that then outputs the video, gets over HDMI. That has a lot of latency. That was more like, I want to say, closer to like 5 to 8 seconds at minimum. Whatever Magewell's doing is amazing because they're able to, yeah, that latency is well under a second, which is cool. So that's super cool. If you have two cameras, do you need two RTMP servers? Yes. So the downside is if I did want to have a second camera angle, I would have to have two RTMP servers here and also twice the upload bandwidth from wherever I'm streaming from. So they would both be streaming video all the time. That's the advantage of the Yolobox, is like you can get 3 cameras where you cut remotely, sending only one video feed. If you use the old Raspberry Pi OS, your solution works to the streaming bridge. Cool. Yeah, yeah. It was in an OS update. They took out the OMX player. The sound on GH5 was lower than your mic you're using now. Oh yeah, I'll double check that when I actually do the stream. I only did a quick audio check before this little test. Would the GH5 II plus may well be a good choice for a remote second camera setup? It sure seems like it. Like, I'm impressed with this, and it seems to work well. Roland says, surely OMX player can be added back manually. I wouldn't be 100% confident on that because sometimes the dependencies that it requires are not available. I haven't looked into it yet. I just started getting comments on my YouTube video saying it stopped working. Maybe low latency due to the same network. Probably yes. Have you tried it from an outside network? The first test I did with this was actually while I was at home streaming to the studio. And I was looking at the multi-view back over the network also. So I was seeing double latency. So I haven't been able to, I don't know, it's gonna be hard to actually test the latency remotely. I actually could do it right now. Why don't I tether the camera to my phone, and then we can try it. So I can go into the streaming settings. Nope. This is the one downside of this is the streaming settings are not able to be jumped to directly from the shortcut. There we go. Streaming function off. Oh, sorry for the glare. Streaming function off. Wi-Fi. Change it to my phone. And then we turn streaming back on, and then it should connect to my phone. Let's see if that works. Connecting. Okay. Come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on. You can do it. I believe in you. Personal hotspot's open. Oh, and I got the new phone, so 5G is on my phone now, too. It's great. I don't know why it's not connecting, though. Oh, now you know my Wi-Fi hotspot password. Oh, well. If you're ever near me, you can use my Wi-Fi hotspot. That's fine. Okay, I don't know what's going on. Let's tell it to connect again. Failed to connect. Streaming on. Connecting. Personal hotspot. It should have saved the password already. This is an exciting demo. Great. I don't know why this isn't working. This is literally what I did earlier. So this is the downside of wireless stuff. The other thing that I'm super curious about this camera is they claim that at the end of the month there is going to be a firmware update available for the Lumix camera that lets it stream over a wired connection, which I don't fully understand what they mean by that because there is no Ethernet port on this camera, but there is a USB port. So do they mean that I can use a USB to Ethernet adapter on it? Because that would be pretty cool. And if that's the case, I'm definitely going to plug the camera into plug it into the travel router over Ethernet. Okay, let's reset everything and try this again. My phone hopped onto Wi-Fi, so let's get my phone's hotspot on. Okay, turn off the Wi-Fi. Then we do the camera streaming. Oh, I have to not block the viewfinder. Camera streaming on. I might have to just restart my phone. I don't know. Okay, the other one to test, though, actually, what I can do is I could test streaming from my phone over RTMP, which would be a cool test too. So we can kind of look at the latency there. I'm going to use the Larix broadcaster app, and I've taken my phone off of Wi-Fi, so it's on 5G, so it's going over the internet. Still in Portland, but it's going over the internet, and I should be able to. Just stream from this. Make sure it's on the right Pro Convert. There we go. Okay. And then we can see what the latency looks like there too. So I'll go back to this view so you can see the phone and turn it on. Okay, there's the feed. So let's do the same little test. Oh, I can see it's choppy. I don't know if you can tell. Let me switch over to the multi-view so you can just see the whole multi-view. It's super choppy. That's not good. It's not reassuring at all. So not great. That's at 30 frames a second. Yeah. I don't know what's up with that. The camera worked way better. So I would love to get that one to work. Okay. Wi-Fi on. Personal hotspot on. And streaming function on. Connecting. Let's make sure my personal hotspot is working by switching my computer to it. Yeah, okay. So it is just the camera's problem. Maybe I did type the password wrong. Wi-Fi connection. Wi-Fi connection, new connection, from list. Third time's the charm. Previously used password will be used. Uh-oh. Oh, hey, it's going. Connection successful. All right, I don't know what that was about. So now if I do streaming on, connecting, come on, there it goes. Oh, wait, I saw the little green thing pop up. Rethinking your lightweight options yet. Oh, it connected again. Okay, there it goes. No, because even this was why I was saying I'm probably going to bring a travel router, because I don't necessarily want this pairing to have to happen. I've had zero trouble getting the camera to connect to any regular Wi-Fi. Okay, so now let's do this test again. Now we're connected through the internet on my phone. Start streaming. And now this is over the internet. So let's do the little latency test. Get my hand in the shot. It looks slightly worse. Still pretty good. Here's the multi-view so you can see everything. There's my hand in 2 shots. Oh, no, that's great. That's super low latency still. That's over the internet. It is 5G, but still. That's pretty good, right? Yeah, that's pretty good. So, I don't know. I'm impressed. Um, turn on the audio to listen for the echo. Yeah, totally. Good idea. Let's turn it. And let me not turn that audio off. Let me not turn my regular audio off, too. So I'm going to switch over to... Here, I'll show you the multi-view that way, and I'll also put both audios on. So now you're hearing both audio sources. Let's do one snap. That wasn't a very good snap. Whoa. That's... Why is it... It looks like it's in sync. What in the world? This seems too good to be true. Why can't I snap with my left hand? There we go. Okay. Yeah, that's really good. So that's your answer. Somehow this, whatever they did with the RTMP server on the Magewell and also the RTMP client on this camera is really, really good. So I'm impressed. That is my plan. That is my plan for the next trip, is to use that. About 1 second? No, that was way less than a second. No, it's like instant. Look at this. Look at this nonsense. Here's my hand on the Stream Deck. There we go. Now you can see my hand in 2 shots. Oh, I saw a stutter. It's like 100 milliseconds. Yeah, I don't know. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so look for that in a coming stream. I should stop wasting my LTE bandwidth. Look for that in a coming stream because that is my plan. That is my plan. And that means all I have to do is bring a camera and a microphone. I do, of course, lose the multi-camera by doing that, but it's worth it because I don't want to carry a bunch of stuff on that next trip. Jules says, mentioning my Roosevelt Island live stream I asked you about using the iPhone 12 SIM came out so great that it was responsible for the gig I asked you about for doing the event in Houston. Oh, that's good news. I'm glad. I'm glad that worked out. Yeah, sorry I can't come to Houston, but I would have loved to. But hopefully we'll get you set up with someone who can. But I'm glad that worked out. Chris says, I see you got the new iPhone. I sure did. I got it last week, right when I got back. Check the video settings in Lyric's broadcaster to see if you can tweak something. Yeah. I know. I was surprised at how stuttery that was. What are the options? Somewhere in here, it was at 3 megabits, which should be totally fine because I certainly have more bandwidth than that on this 5G connection. Super weird. I don't know why it was so stuttery. I feel like it wasn't the last time I tried this too, which is confusing. And that is 2 hours. I have to go home soon because it's going to get dark out soon because it's already noon and now it's the dark times in Portland. Graham says, you say they took out OMX Player. Yeah, don't install the newest Raspberry Pi OS if you rely on OMX Player. Until you can find a solution that doesn't rely on OMX Player. Christopher asks, how long have you been streaming? How long did it take you to be more confident on camera? Good question. I started this show last year, I want to say April or May, and It was definitely more nervous at the beginning, but got over it pretty quick. But I've been doing, one of the reasons I started doing this was because I've been doing, as part of my software job, been doing live trainings for a very long time. And it was mostly in person, where I would go to a company and get in front of like 30 to 50 people, go talk at them for like 3 or 4 hours and work on OAuth stuff. And then we switched to virtual events, of course, in March 2020. And it was a bit of a adjustment period to turn those into Zoom events. But then I realized, wait a second, I'm basically live streaming. Because I was like, if I'm already talking to people for hours on end, and like I go in here with a plan, but not a script, I was like, I'm basically doing live streams already. I should just do it on YouTube for video stuff too. And then I started doing it, and it's been great. It's been a lot of fun, and I enjoy it. And yeah, one of the things that helps the sort of being on camera is having an audience that's very friendly. So thanks to everybody here for being a very good audience. Because yeah, when people are yelling at you from the crowd, that's not fun, and that does not build confidence. But everybody here is very nice and very supportive, so I appreciate that. Okay, we've gone for over 2 hours. I think I've talked about what I want to talk about. I wanted to give you a sneak peek of the setup that I'm hoping to use for my next time I'm traveling, and we'll see how it goes, and we'll see how confident I am when I come back. But based on my current little test I did of trying to get that to connect to my phone's hotspot, that is reassuring me that bringing a travel router, getting the travel router through my phone on the internet, and then getting the camera on the travel router is probably a better option, because like I said, I've never had this thing fail to connect to my home or studio Wi-Fi. I've only had that trouble getting it onto the hotspot, because the hotspot has to, like, I don't know, turn on and do stuff. So that's my current plan. We'll see how it goes. Okay. With that, oh, Bailey, thank you for bringing this up. Photo Joseph has received a fair bit of negativity recently regarding his appearance. Don't know why, but yes, general tip for anybody: don't comment on someone's appearance ever, unless you know them. And even then, I would say probably also not. Generally, it's just not something that needs to be commented on. So just don't. Yeah. You may, the worst part is, like, you may even think you're giving someone a compliment, and turns out not. So just leave it out. This goes for everybody. Just don't comment on appearance. It's not relevant to the topic. Unless you're talking about like a fashion show or something, in which case, please do comment on the appearance. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Yeah. Okay. Whew. This is a long one. I guess I made up for last week by doing a double length stream. We're gonna go. That was the plan. Yes, I was 100% planning on that at the beginning. That was 100% what I was planning on doing. Yes, and that is impressive latency for the GH5. I agree. Okay. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for all the super chats. Thanks for coming here every week, almost every week. And great questions today. We had a lot of good questions at the beginning. I will be back next week. I don't see why not. It's Thanksgiving weekend, so if you have to watch it on replay, that's fine. I don't mind. But yeah, thanks for all the questions. Thanks for the super chats. It means a lot. It helps me continue to do interesting things on this channel. And thanks everybody for watching. And yeah, have a great rest of the week.